Hello and welcome to this tour of my model steam launch. I've been inspired to make this in response to a couple of videos which have appeared on fellow modelers channels, Dad's RC Hangar and Jeff's Let's Go Fly, who both featured model boats, and I thought it would be nice to share my model boating experience, and also I think it illustrates that many of us have interests outside of just radio controlled aircraft. So I thought I would do a little tour, a little bit of background on this model, and what I learned from making it. So it's actually the boat is called Wide Awake. It's 52 inches long and it's got a 16.5-inch beam. It's quite a hefty lump. It weighs between 40 and 50 pounds, I'm not exactly sure, with the steam plant in. And it's all been scratch built. It started when I'd purchased a lathe a number of years ago, and I really didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to use it. And I said this to a fellow model boat member who happened to be a very experienced engineer. And I said, I'd love to learn how to use the lathe correctly and hone my skills. And he said, look, I'll teach you. He says, the best way is to actually make something. So what would you like to make? And I said, well, I'd love to make a live steam engine. I'd always been fascinated by these as a child. And he said, right, I'll go away and I'll find a plan and I'll come back to you. But it has to be a real steam engine and not a simple oscillator. So it was quite a daunting task, but this is the plan he came back with. It's called the Borderer. It's a slide valve engine, twin, so that means it's self-starting, which is important for a model boat. It has Stephenson's Link, a local hero in the northeast, a railway engineer, which means you can reverse it, and you can also control the speed to a certain extent. And I embarked on building this, and the Mick, who's the fellow modeler, took me through step by step how to machine and produce the component parts. And there were lots of weekends down at the club where he would get a notepad out and draw some sketches and show me various ways to produce each component. And that took about a year. And at the end of the year, compressed air was applied and it came to life, and that was a hell of a thrill. So I then had to look for a project or a boat for it to go in. And the boat was this size because steam is a very powerful driving force. And I wanted something a little bit different. Now this is what in America they call lapstrake, and in this country it's called clinker. It's a very ancient building technique. It involves one plank overlapping the other, goes back to the Vikings and before. It's unusual because every plank is a slightly different shape, and you have to transfer the shape of the next plank from the previous one in a process I believe is called spiling. I forget now, and I had to learn how to do that. It's made from cherry and mahogany, and all the parts have been machined. The fixtures and fittings by myself on the lathe. I didn't have a milling machine at the time, so I had to be inventive on how I was going to do that. So I thought I'd take you through the journey of how it works and how steam's produced to drive the model forward. So there's a reserve of water in this front compartment, about 2 pints as I recall, accessed via a hatch here. You can draw water from a lake, but lakes tend to be quite dirty things and it can cause problems, so I've avoided that with this model. So there's a water tank here. The boiler I also made, although my friend Mick actually silver soldered it together with me because he had the correct heating equipment, but I did a bit of boiler making, which was an interesting process. The heat is provided by gas. So this is a camping gas bottle which goes to a burner, which you ignite through the entrance there. And you can see there's a ceramic burner. I'm going to actually change that to a bigger one because this is quite a hefty boiler and it needs quite a lot of water, quite a lot of heat to heat that volume of water up. So heat's produced via the burner, obviously produces steam. The steam, the pressure gauge, you check and you have to mark off it has a working pressure of 40 pounds per square inch. Steam comes down to a control valve where I can control the steam that's coming from the engine and therefore the speed of the engine. This is a oil displacement lubricator, quite a clever device. Steam goes in, picks up oil, and the oil then goes to lubricate the engine. The engine, if I turn it over, you can see how it works. The engine drives the shaft, and this device in the front is a pump which is on a reduced gear, and that's the feed pump, which basically puts water back into the boiler to replace the steam that's being used. And that means that with the gas tank and the water reservoir in the front, I can actually run for about 20, 30, even 40 minutes without coming back in. This is a hand pump so that water can be added by hand. So you have a hand pump and a feed pump. And then the used steam comes out and goes into this device, which is basically a condenser, because the last thing you want is oil spurting out of the top and spreading all over the lake. That's the quickest way to get yourself barred from sailing on lakes, about the same as having a 100cc model engine aeroplane flying over a residential area. You wouldn't be very popular. So what this does is it separates the oil from the steam, and the oil and water collects in here and clean steam comes out at the top. I haven't sailed it for some time actually. I've just never got round to it. I got sidetracked by the radio control flying, but I'm sure it's something that I'll go back to. My daughter actually printed the flags for me. She was working in textile design at the time, and there's even a small flag for the Steamboat Association at the front. So I hope people find that interesting. It just shows that I think there's more out there than just model planes, and I find it very enriching doing other types of modelling. If you're interested in this and you'd like to see more, I have another steam launch which is American design, which I built as a follow-up to this, which was a little bit more manageable and smaller and easier to handle and put into the car. But I just thought I'd share this. I'm sure that everybody enjoys modelling, that's why we're in it. And even if it's not a warbird or a vintage designed aircraft, I'm sure that we can appreciate other aspects of other hobbies. So until next time, get out flying. If you can't get flying, take the risk, pick up a modelling knife and get doing a little bit of whittling and carving. Bye for now.